The JLR Interview Series.
Hi there, my name is Kevin Davy, and you are listening to jazzlondonradio.com. And a warm welcome to DAB listeners. This week on the show, my special guest is the renowned saxophonist Ray Carless. Originally hailing from Jamaica, his family choosing to settle in the UK, in the borough of Hackney. Ray has a musical career spanning 5 decades in the UK, and his contribution can be heard in the seminal groups of the Jazz Warriors, the Brit Funk Association, which is High Tension, Beggar & Co, and Light of the World. Ray has also led his own projects and musical direction, and released some of his own music. I asked Ray to share something of his insights and his musical journey with our listeners during this occasion of UK Black History Month. We started off with Ray speaking about his family background in Jamaica and his father's influence as a musician and his friendship with the trumpeter Tan Tan.
Okay, I guess it started off in Jamaica. Start from the beginning. Dad was a tailor who picked up a saxophone on the insistence of Eddie Tan Tan. They call him Tan Tan.
Yes.
Or Eddie Thornton.
Yes.
Tan Tan was a trumpet player in Jamaica and played dance band and lived in Spanish Town or thereabouts. And he knew my dad. He got my dad to go buy a saxophone, and they used to play together in dance bands and stuff back in Jamaica. But Dad was first and foremost a tailor. So he came up to the UK and, and found work wherever, in factories and stuff like that, as a tailor. I think he actually probably worked on building sites,
Yes.
In them days they did whatever they needed to do.
That's right.
Yeah. But eventually he settled down in the tailoring industry, where he was one of the top machinists. That needs to have different grades of machinists, but he was one of the top machinists.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sent for my dad. I'm not just my dad, my mum rather.
Yes.
My dad followed him a couple of years back, and they left us with aunts and uncles in Jamaica, in Spanish Town. And eventually, they sent for us, me and my sister, and we came up. And I came to Stoke Newington.
Yes.
And the wonders of Stoke Newington were in one of the worst winters ever, 1963. Black ice, black fog,
Yes.
people going to work and can't find their way home.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Because of the conditions, it was terrible.
The conditions there.
Anyway, we got here, me and my sister, and we just got on with it.
So moving on now, Ray was to share with me some of his musical influences and also the fact that the family had moved from Jamaica to the borough of Hackney, and Ray was now involved in developing as a musician and also connecting with other UK-based black musicians who were exploring funk and jazz genres.
Regarding the music, Quincy Jones' album greeted me in a way, and that was, I was hearing that, quite a lot, and Ella Fitzgerald and stuff like that in the house.
Yes.
And Dad played the saxophone.
Yeah.
And I guess I wanted to do the same.
Yeah, so you basically followed in the footsteps of your dad.
Yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
And genetically, I think.
Yeah.
He was very musical. Played with, people like Millie Small,
Yeah.
and Laura Bacon back in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And so I think music came from inside the family. My mother didn't have a musical bone in her body. Couldn't sing. Wasn't the best dancer. She was a great housewife, great mother.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where the music came from.
Yeah.
My dad used to play in dance bands over here in the UK on a semi-professional basis because he always held on to his day job, because
Yeah.
he had to.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
You
Well, my family came over in the 50s as well from Jamaica, so
hmm
we share that heritage, and we
hmm
knew what our parents are doing to build a foundation. You know. Yeah. So basically, I know that you played with Sugar Minot and a few people in the way back in the day.
hmm
You know, you did a lot of shows with different people.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I mean, well, I started playing the clarinet at school,
Yeah.
and then drifted on to other instruments. We had a school band, like a brass band, come orchestra.
Right.
And when if they needed when they needed a trumpet player, I'd have a go. When they needed a trombone player, I had to go.
Okay.
Euphonium. So I got to touch quite a few different instruments.
Yeah.
Um, and it was quite a musical school, and
Right.
I had friends like J.J. Bell, a great session guitarist, and Tony Beard, a great drummer,
Right.
to play with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
People like that.
Yeah.
We were jamming with at school.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I've forgotten the question. What was the question? You're rambling on.
No, it's fine. You talking about your formative years within the music. You came through with.
Oh yeah, you asked about reggae. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think although I'm from Jamaica, reggae wasn't my first thing. I think. I guess I used to, as a teenager, I'd go to the youth clubs and hear,
Yes. Yes.
whatever's been playing in the youth clubs,
Yes.
and kind of got into that, a little rock, a little funk.
Yeah.
But the funk took over, and
Yeah.
enjoyed that. So kind of that's where I started off and stuck with the soul and funk for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then, as things went on, you realize that you needed to be more proficient on your instrument, and you started to find out, that you didn't know everything, and you started listening more closely to the jazz and realized how difficult that art form was, and
Yeah.
so you started studying properly, and taking in the jazz, Tony Coltrane, Charlie Parker,
Yeah.
etc. And in our teens, we started going to Ronnie Scott's to listen to the Americans when they came over.
Yeah. Yeah.
And locally we started to do workshops, and jam sessions, and forming our own little bands.
Yeah.
That was kind of the start, and
Yes.
then with the collaborating, the jazz funk or the Brit funk thing
Yes.
started to take shape, and
Yes.
met guys from High Tension, Light of the World,
Yes.
Loose Ends, Beggar and Co,
Yeah.
Central Line, etc. So proud to be part of that
Yeah.
association of
Yeah.
musicians, and I think I'm kind of proud of that out of our association we formed a genre known as Brit Funk that people know all around the world.
Well,
Not to forget Incognito as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was with Bluey when we formed Incognito.
Yeah.
Bluey and Tubbs.
Yeah.
And Jeff Dunn.
That's the foundation of
so-
British funk, then, basically.
Yeah.
This music you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
those stand the test of time. I was a fan. I bought the records.
hmm
When I was coming out of school, I bought those records. Some of those records.
hmm
Light of the World, High Tension.
hmm
I used to go and see the gigs, actually.
Yeah. Links. And,
Yeah.
David Grant and Links.
Yeah. And so that's like the 70s, pulling through the 70s, and then the 80s was jazz, the Jazz Warriors, and I know that you've
Yeah.
been in the various other formation.
Yeah. It's the Jazz Warriors period was quite, elevating as well, because
Yes.
Again, we found and we formed another union with another group of musicians who were more into jazz, who wanted to learn to play jazz, and the things we wanted to play big band music,
Yeah.
and we wanted to, read music. We wanted to learn how to read music, but the opportunities weren't there.
Yes.
It was really hard to get the experience or get into big band. All the big bands were subscribed,
Yes.
and if you weren't in a certain clique, you had no chance.
Yes.
So I think we decided that we had to do it ourselves, and we formed a band together, and we managed to get some support to create some music. Courtney Pine came along with a lot of positive energy.
Yes.
At the time,
Yes.
and we got the band together, so Gary Crosby, Adrian Reed, Alan Weeks,
Yes.
and we did it because we wanted to do something where we could learn and use it as a platform, because reading music to us was important, because we wanted to be able to work in places like the BBC or do
Yes.
or do film work or theatre work.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't read music, you didn't stand a chance of getting
That's right.
in any of those opportunities.
Yes.
So we were aware that we had to get certain basic things together.
Yes.
And improvising and reading music was top of the list.
Okay.
And we managed to get support from the Arts Council and local councils, etc. To commission music to be written. Courtney and Fires Virgin, others, did some really good writing.
Yes.
And that was at the same time as Loose Tubes,
Yes.
So you had a black band
Yeah.
and a white band, and it was kind of good fun, because it gave the press a little bit of meat to, something to write about. Well, a bit more to write about, actually.
Yeah, it did. It did. Those
that
bands,
segregation thing was,
yeah,
was quite,
it was serious.
it was good for all of us, really, because it brought a lot of attention to us. If you wanted to know why you in an all black band and why you lot in an all white band,
Yeah. Yeah. And I went to see both of the bands when it came up to Manchester and Nottingham. When you were touring up to Manchester and Nottingham, I was going to those gigs.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, what was happening in Manchester at that time?
Well, we were trying to do our thing, but it's difficult outside of London. But we were trying to do something, and we followed things. Yeah, Manchester had a reggae scene, and Dreddy was the late Dreddy was part of that. And in the early times, it was Sweet Sensation was a Manchester band who broke through, and there's a few other bands up there that got through, but it was hard up there to get through. You kind of need to be in London. There's a sense of you need to be in London or Birmingham or something. Birmingham was a reggae place.
Yeah, it was good to be in London, I guess. Also, because if you wanted to get any of the benefits of being around the pop scene, because that's where the money was at.
That's where the money
pop
was
scene,
Yeah.
And some of the bands I played with managed to get chart success, and from that chart success, people got to know us, and session work came out of that. Often when American acts came across, and they needed musicians to fill out the band. We get a call. When certain artists like Will Downing or someone like that came across. I got to play with Will because the record company, for whatever reason, didn't want to bring a band over. So band or pick up musicians here.
Yeah.
So that was happening on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
Top of the Pops, a lot of tracks that were recorded in America became hits here. My other saxophone solo, and I'd often get called to come and replicate the solo. And often people thought that I was the original player, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I understand
It was just convenient for the record companies, to save money on hotels and flights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To have a local guy just to come and fill in. So yeah, it was a good time. Got to meet lots of artists.
And you were at the very foundation of a lot of these things. So, what about your own project, Tarantella Walk, and some of the other things you released yourself?
Well, Tarantella Walk was my first single.
Yeah.
That came out of the Brit Funk era.
Yeah.
I think I was signed to Ensign Records, same company that had the reggae band Black Slave and Incognito.
Yes.
And a few other bands. And there was the funk scene, the DJs, the funk DJs. Back then, they used to support us, and they were supporting themselves as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if they could create a hit record, there was put food on the table for everybody.
Yes.
So we had Chris, who was the director at the record label, and him and his DJ colleagues, they formed a consortium, they just grouped together, called themselves the Funk Mafia, and basically they'd all work together to make hit records, and I was lucky to get the benefit of that collaboration. When Tarantella Walk was released, it was an instrumental, and didn't expect anything off it. But the guys did what they do. It's the same way they made hits for Light of the World, High Tension, in the same kind of way. The DJs did what they're there for, to promote music, an art that's been forgotten, because you don't get hit records anymore, because DJs don't work together anymore.
Right.
To create hit records. It's almost like the other way around now. Musicians pander to DJs to get their records played. It's more like the musicians that are promoting DJs.
It's the other way around,
and that's why I think one of the reasons why things are a bit of a standstill.
Yeah.
Because there's a chicken and egg thing, is that
Yeah.
I think your general DJ's got so many records. He gets lost in them. Can't see wood for the trees. So I think there came a point when they just weren't. They weren't promoting any new music.
Yeah.
I think, and when they were just depending on their stockpiles of records that they've collected over the years. Kind of understand it to a degree, because when a DJ goes onto the radio, for an hour, you can probably maybe squeeze in 12, maybe 20 records, but the guy's got like 20,000 records, in his collection, so it's something that you need to give a thought to, are you just here to play, old music, or are you here to help to develop something new? I think they got lost there. They just guys just play music to enjoy themselves, and neglecting any of the new music being made or the new artists coming up.
Yeah, to develop artists coming up.
Yeah.
So I know that your current projects are, I know that you're in Mandy, because you invited me in to play with them with you. So you're working with Mandy all around the world, and other projects. Would you like to say something about that?
Yeah, yeah. Sir Mandy, I got a call from Sir Mandy about 6 years ago. I mean, Sir Mandy was one of my favorite bands. Probably one of the first records I bought was a Sir Mandy album, and they did their thing. They on the first time round the circuit, they went to America and toured America.
Yeah.
And did really well. And the story that they came back here to the UK and got ripped off by the management, and they didn't really hang about. The two main guys said it's not going to happen again, and they just put down their instruments and went and did law degrees.
Yeah.
And they're both lawyers now. But 6 years ago, after 40 years, they decided they wanted to make a comeback and do it properly. With the legal background, they knew exactly how they wanted it to be, and how it should be.
Yes.
And I got a call.
Yes.
And I did a few tours with them, and then you came in on trumpet, and people like Robert and Richard Bailey came in on drums recently, and the band's kicking.
It's a kicking
But,
band,
So we were having a lot of fun. And still, Mr. Corona came along to spoil things.
Oh no!
But I've been having a lot of fun. I've been playing the last couple of years. I've been playing with Satellites also,
Yes.
and that's been great. And for my own personal, for me personally, musically, I decided I wanted to go back and get more in touch with my roots. So I play the music that I play now. We call it Windrush jazz. So basically, we play reggae music with a twist of jazz.
Yes.
And so I can connect with my community more.
Yes.
And I can connect, with my roots more.
Yes.
I'm really enjoying that mix.
Yeah.
And it's not as demanding as if I was an out and out jazz musician. It's hard work these days because to be a jazz musician, you've really got to have time to practice your instrument like 4, 5, 6 hours a day. That's what jazz musicians do.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do in the West here, where things are so expensive. You've got to manage your time as best you can.
So Ray said a little bit more about his perspectives on music and the energy coming from the crowd and within the different genres.
I decided that the jazz thing, and I think I get much more enjoyment, out of seeing people dance to the music I'm playing now rather than to play to seated audiences.
Yeah.
Because the jazz thing is like you play to people who really appreciate it. Well, you can't even really tell they appreciate it because they're generally seated, and they're very quiet until the end of the tune. You get a bit of applause.
Yeah.
But I like to see people jumping around the place, and the ska, rocksteady, reggae.
Yeah.
That does that every time. And every time we go on stage, from the minute you start, you can tell that people are having a ball, and that makes me have a ball.
Well, that music is
very fortunate.
That music is.
I've got a great bunch of musicians around me.
Yes. That music's so powerful. Mm-hmm. So Roland Alfonso and that music from back then, Don Drummond.
Yeah.
That music is carrying on strong, isn't it?
Yeah, man, going forward, Rico.
Rico Rodriguez, yeah.
And Michael Bammy Rose.
Yeah, Bammy's out there still.
Inspirational.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and Bob Marley.
Yes, Bob Marley. Well.
Always mention Bob Marley.
Always mention.
He was just so far ahead of his time.
Yes.
It's like the stuff that he's writing about is happening now. It's just playing out now.
It's playing out.
Almost every song you listen to, you could relate it to what's happening now or over the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah. So you've composed, musical directed, and done
Yeah.
various things. Would you like to say something more about your?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm not. I was never a prolific songwriter,
Yes.
you know, but under duress, yes, I've composed, yeah, I think that I like to play the saxophone, and I like to be able to express myself and connect with people through that, and
Moving on, I asked Ray to share something of his association with Rasa Sheba Hailstones and the African Revolution and ongoing community initiatives in West London.
for my West London connection.
Yes.
Fantastic community over in Ladbroke Grove and Portobello, much more so than anywhere else in London.
Yeah.
And the guys are really, there's a collective. The collective's called African Revolution, and it's led by Ras Ashiba, or AKA Niles Hailstones.
Yes.
And it's it's a tough group of guys, man. We talk about what's happening and Afrocentric issues, and people should check it out. Ras Ashiba and African Revolution. You're going to be hearing a lot more from them soon. We're building an art center, a black cultural art center in Ladbroke Grove. We're in the process of doing that now. We've acquired a space, and that's on the move. So, hopefully, sometime next year, we'll be fully functional.
Well, that's great
and
news.
Prior to that, we were at a place called the Flyover, which is just down the road.
Yes.
And we had a venue called the Flyover.
Yes.
Somehow the gentrification thing came at us from behind and kind of threw us off of it. We lost the venue. The local trust took the venue from us, and they decided they wanted another arts. What was it? I don't know what to call it. But it's supposed to be an art gallery anyway.
Yeah, I heard
But
that.
some guys took it over, under the pretense of being an art gallery. Then when they started putting on gigs, like rock gigs and all sorts of things,
Okay. Yeah, okay.
So we were robbed of that venue, but
Isn't the fault
we
reason?
managed to gather ourselves, and we got another place, which is, we call it the Village. At the moment, it's called the Village Portobello.
Acklam Village. Yeah.
Yeah, Ackland Village. It's where
Portobello.
Ebony Steel Band used to be the home for Ebony Steel Band back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great space. Look out for the Ackland Village, African Revolution.
I asked Ray to say a little bit about his own promotions with his band Scarville All Stars and his co-promotions with Empress Lee.
So the last question: what is your vision for the future? Where do you see things going now for your music?
Well, my band, I call my band called the Club Scarville All Stars.
Yes.
So the last couple of years we've been playing venues around London.
Yeah.
And getting the band together, getting us the sound together.
Yeah.
And we're kind of ready to go international. To start doing some tour international. Yeah. But this present abnormal time has kind of put us in a position where no one knows what's going to happen.
No.
Or when.
When. Yeah.
It kind of looks like the venues are going to be closed down for a while, until we get the handle on this COVID thing. I personally think we're just going to have to manage it. Just the same way we manage the flu, influenza, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or else, I can't see how we're going to be locked in our houses from now till eternity.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to get on top of this thing. And you know, I'm dreading the dreaded vaccine.
Yeah.
Because I know these vaccine things could take a decade to develop a vaccine and test it properly.
Yeah.
And it's being pushed at us within months. And you know, I think I'm very reluctant to rush into something like that. I think we've got to find another way to.
Yeah. Something that's not been tested.
To manage this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know, yesterday, President Trump.
Yep.
You know, he came down with the dreaded COVID-19, and I can imagine he's going to jump up with some new magical vaccine that that they're going to want us to all take before they've even tested it properly.
Yeah.
I know we have to find a solution. But I'm not. I don't want to be a guinea pig for that. They can test it on themselves. And I'm quite happy to just keep myself healthy, keep my immune system strong.
Yeah.
As possible.
That's right.
And fight it out until we're sure that we've got an answer.
Yes. So I've been to some of your promotions with Empress Lee and at Jago and other places. So is that the way forward now? You're going to be doing your own promotions now as well?
Yeah.
The Scarville thing.
Well, yeah. A couple of years ago, I mean, when in 2012, I had this run-in with bowel cancer.
Yes.
And it kind of put me out of the game for a few years. And when I came back, it was a struggle to come back to get gigs and stuff. And I had time on my hands, so I decided to do some self-promotion. And I started getting hold of venues and putting little gigs on here and there, and I continued to do so. I quite enjoy doing it, with help, of course.
Yes.
Because it's hard work. But I've got a good team around me. I've got the Empress Lee.
Yes.
And others who help out with administration and the management and running of that. And it's rewarding to be able to self-promote and also promote my colleagues. There's lots of great artists about the place, and I've been able to help some of them.
Yes.
And I'm aware that there's lots of musicians about the place, but the infrastructure is very weak. There's not many promoters who are interested in, up and coming artists.
Yes.
Anyone worth a salt as a promoter has gone on to work with big artists and maximize what they do and what they know. So often, the up and coming people find it really hard to get the support from venues and promoters, especially, and management.
Yes.
Everyone wants to wait till the thing's cooked and curried before they're interested. They don't want to. They don't want to help. In the early stages.
No.
Because in the early stages there's no money. So
they're risk averse, basically. They're risk averse.
Yeah.
So, what would your advice be, or guidance towards the young musicians coming through or thinking about picking up a saxophone?
Well, I don't think I need to give any guidance, because there's so many great youngsters about the place.
Yeah.
I think the guys, the youngsters, can see it all around them. People who are interested. If you're interested in playing an instrument, you just have to look around. To go on the social media, or turn on certain radio stations, and you'll hear. Yeah. So I'd say it's difficult because venues are struggling at the minute. The whole infrastructure, the whole industry, the cultural industry is struggling. It was struggling even before COVID, and it's like COVID come along to finish it off. But I think fingers crossed. I think people do it because they love it. I don't think the guys, the people who stick to it, necessarily do it for money. I think they just do it, and later on they might feel the pinch and decide, they realize, But I think it doesn't seem to have stopped so many of the great musicians that are around the place these days.
Yeah.
So if it's for you, then just do your thing. And the great musicians that I see, they've not needed any encouragement. So I think you'll always find people at the forefront there trying to take things forward.
That's right. Yeah.
And which I think they certainly are at the moment.
Yeah. Ray, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say, Ray Carless, on behalf of JazzLondonRadio.com, many thanks for being special.
You're welcome, brother. Show. You're welcome. And we speak anyone soon. Wants to know anything more about what I'm doing, the website.
The JLR Interview Series.